Welcome to the Thrive City Podcast, where we talk about music from the business aspect to the creative aspect. We're going to talk about all the ins and outs in this industry. So if you're interested, stay tuned because we got a lot to talk about. This right here, this is the Thrive City Podcast. Welcome to the Thrive City Podcast. I'm your host, Nano, and I'm here with engineer Kevin K.
How's it going, man? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Me and Kevin have been friends for a while. Very long time.
Yes, indeed. Very long time.
Yeah.
very, very long time. Right now, it's, maybe like 6 or 7 years
Something
almost.
like that.
Yeah.
Shit. It's mad long.
Yeah, really is crazy.
Yeah, it is. So you're an engineer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you mainly do as like an engineer? What genre do you mix, record, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm probably most known in more of the trap metal community, which is like, I guess, hip hop mixed with like metal kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Some people compare it to like new metal and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do work at Mansion Recordings, which is very known for drill.
Okay. All right. That's cool. When did you start making music?
I started making music around when I was 14. I started playing guitar, and from there, I just got more and more into more of the like what different sounds you can make with music, rather than what music you can make with it. You know,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does make sense. So you started off playing guitar. At what point in time were you like, I want to start recording? I want to start being in the studio with people and not being recorded.
Well, that definitely took some time, because I went from, what happened was that what really got me into engineering was I knew how to play guitar, so I was counseling for this place called New York City Guitar Camp, and we were teaching all these kids how to play guitar, and it's a great school. And then one of my coworkers who was working with me had an internship at Hot 97, and so he brought me there, and that's kind of when I found out like what specifically I wanted to do in audio and what the title of that was.
So you were working at Hot 97?
Like kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was there. I was there for like the nights that he was there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was more his friend, and like he was an intern, and so I guess I was kind of like an intern with him there.
Yeah. So you saw the ins and outs of the radio station.
Yeah, I just wasn't officially, I guess, considered a worker there, because he was he got interviewed for that job and stuff. Like he just kind of brought me along, and I got to experience a lot because of him, because he was able to get me in like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So what exactly would you be doing at Hot 97?
Just regular intern work. Like we'd clean up, we'd get food for people, cable wrapping, nothing super, mics, like setting up microphones and stuff, but nothing ever definitely nothing in the realm of recording. And in that sense, it was more like, if anything, more like Dante and stuff like that, because you have to be transmitting audio across, nationwide, or, I think Hot 97 goes by state. So
I think so. It's only in New York.
Well, I think they have they have Hot 97, but it's in New York, but then they have other places, and they have their own teams over there, I think.
Oh, so it's like, it won't be Ebro in the morning and stuff like that. It'll be like different people.
Yeah, I can't believe he's still alive. With his schedule, it honestly surprises me.
Yeah, he does a lot.
Yeah, I mean, working there as an intern was great, because you get to go home at 11 or whatever, and then the next set of interns come in. But when for the engineers and the people who were working at that studio, they were there for 3 days straight, go home for 2 days and come back for another 3, and that was their that was a cycle.
Oh, that shit is crazy. So they would sleep in the studio?
I take naps if you had the time, but most of the time you're kind of working.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a part of the audio business.
A rough schedule though.
3
days straight, no sleep.
No, for real though, I'm kind of used to it at this point. I feel like I do a lot of similar. It's not as bad because I do get like 5 hours to sleep, but
Yeah.
still, like running off of such little sleep sometimes can get to you. Yeah.
Oh, I believe you. So you went from Hot 97 to where?
From that job, I was still in high school, so I just kind of cruised. You know what I mean? Like I kind of knew I was like, I want what I wanted to do in life and stuff. So I just kind of was like trying to get my diploma and get out of school. And I came, and then of course, like towards the end of high school years, people pressure you to go to college, and
Yeah.
I need to figure something out, and I chose SAE. And they weren't. Weird thing about SAE was that like you're supposed to submit applications for college in your junior year. They don't allow you to submit an application until you finally get your diploma.
Yeah, don't they have like a deal or something like that? That if you have a high school diploma, they give you a certain percentage off from the course,
I don't know if that's
or like
what
a
it is.
scholarship.
Well, maybe they might have a scholarship. I know they definitely have a scholarship program, but I don't. I think they have a They just the way that they do things, because they're technically a private school. You have to have your diploma already in order to get in and be able to apply. So like I couldn't officially apply till after school, which by that time COVID hit, so I wasn't really looking into it. Like I wasn't really looking at college at that time. I was kind of just like COVID hit, getting stimulus checks and just what was the main thing I was doing. That's when I got in contact with like the trap metal guys, and I started getting a lot of my major credits doing free work for them because there was no places to perform, and so we just grabbed a PA system and started doing that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's how I got those credits.
So the trap metal guys are your highest credits?
Yeah, probably.
Do you want to like shout them out, like who you've recorded that you're very proud about?
Well, I mean, none of them were recording because it was all for live sound mainly.
Okay.
Which is, some might consider it more difficult. I always considered it a little easier than recording because you're not looking for the perfect take. You're just looking for what's going on. But, I got a lot of my credits with them. So I was working under Zilla's label for like NYCL Kai, and like with this guy like Kratos and stuff like that, and like they're all great people and stuff, so it was all right. But once when things started opening back up, everyone kind of goes their own way.
So obviously you've been in the studio. You've heard a bunch of different genres recorded. From rock to trap metal,
jazz,
jazz, that whole fluctuation. So which one do you prefer to record the most, or which one is more of your preference?
It's a good question. I don't think I have a preference in what I like to mix and record. I think it's more for me about if it's done properly or not. Because if it's done properly, where I have like all the tracks, and stuff like that, like it's more fun for me. But when it's like you give me a 2-track and some vocals, it feels like my education isn't being put to use, like because that's like a very simple 2 tracks are very simple like recording style that like everyone's fallen into nowadays, I guess. But back in the day, not that long ago, people had to get good takes and not just punch in all the time. So I think it's more about like the people you're working with, and if they're truly are like musicians and like artists, or if they're just somebody who thinks that they can rap or they can sing, or what I mean, because like there's lots of those. This is a hobby for most people, not for us, but for most people. So, and it's important to remember that.
I mean, I never thought about it like that, because to me personally, like I just like hearing the finished end result, and I'm very analytical when it comes to lyrics. So I prefer like mixing the 2 tracks.
Okay.
I mean, I find it fun to mix live bands and stuff like that, but sometimes it's not that it's easier. It's more like I get to hear this person say what they have to say and like really, really listen to it,
Yeah. Well, that brings into the question too, like how many artists are actually writing lyrics and not just kind of going off of like what comes off the top of their heads and their baby rhymes.
And there's not a lot, but then there are some that don't have those baby rhymes that just come off their head, you know?
Well,
Like
and that's always impressive. You know what I mean? Because there is that style of hip hop where it's that freestyle genre.
Yeah.
But I think people have too much of an ego, and I think more people think that they can do that than actually can do it.
Yeah, I feel like some of them think that way, but then some of them are like, if this person could do it, I could do it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, Lil Baby could do it, I could do it. You know?
Yeah.
But then they don't really think like Lil Baby was probably in jail, sitting down, thinking about all this shit. You know?
Yeah, I don't know him personally.
Oh, you don't know his story?
No, I'm not. I don't like. That's a weird thing about me too. Is I definitely don't know too much about, especially new hip hop. Like anything probably past 2010, I don't really.
Wow.
Like after like Drake and like Eminem and like all those guys like weren't like what everybody was listening to all the time. I kind of like probably like Mercy was like the last song I liked before like I started feeling like.
Were you talking about like Lamborghini Mercy?
Yeah.
Jesus
like,
Christ.
like,
that's so long ago.
Yeah, and then after that, I was kind of like, you know, I got more into my rock again.
So you just like flipped.
Yeah, because I just felt like the music wasn't progressing in that sense. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's when like mumble rap came in.
That too. And so I wasn't a fan of that.
I understand. I understand that.
Fetty Wap, he came in. And it's interesting. He just got arrested out in Long Island.
He did?
Yeah, I think it was Fetty Wap. Unless it was someone else.
Oh, I don't know.
He got arrested out in Suffolk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think some famous rapper did.
Oh, shit.
Got busted for selling like mad drugs. What happens, bro? None of them, you give a lot of these guys like a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it. They should be investing in like real estate and stuff.
Yeah,
but
making money the legit way.
Yeah, but it's quicker for them to just sit on their ass and sell drugs, which is like, especially in the music industry, there's so many people who need drugs that like it's a given. You know what I mean? Like if you have that business, people come to it, and like not a pretty part of the music industry.
Yeah. So to get back to where we were before, you said that you went to SAE.
Yeah. So
do you think that going to SAE, you learned everything you had to learn, or you could have learned it on your own?
SAE was, I think it's more about the instructors you get and what you put into it, because you definitely can, like, it's like a general music class. You definitely can just sit there and get the A, but if you like actually try and like, you know, and your teacher sees that, if you have a good teacher who cares, then he'll try to like push you and he'll give you advice and like kind of get you on the track of like what you need to be doing and like how to mix properly and stuff like that. But I don't know. I've heard from a lot of people, especially like people who come from more of the producing world, that they aren't a fan of SAE because SAE focuses mainly on mixing.
Yeah.
Not really producing.
So do you think that it's worth going to school for it?
I'd say it's more reliant on your learning style. But I'd say interning is definitely where you get the most experience, but you need to have a good foundation. So SAE is good with giving you a foundation and getting you used to using consoles and stuff like that, which like a lot of people, even in my studio, a lot of people don't know how to use. And, you know, can be upsetting because like it's kind of part of the audio engineer job is to like use a console.
Different avenue.
Yeah. It's even though more in depth. And like nowadays consoles are a little all over the place. You know what I mean? Like they're DAW controllers and crazy shit now. So
mad technology that not a lot of people know.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of engineers know. I think artists and other people in the studio, like producers or even certain engineers who aren't really super big on analog gear, you know, like they just don't know it, and like that's fine. Like because in today's world, the way engineering is, you can do that. You can go that route, and like so that's why like it's more up to you. If you want to know how to do like analog recording and be able to use analog and digital, then I'd say SAE is a great school for that and like great way to get good foundation. But then like if you're just trying to learn how to mix and like you don't care about learning how to use Pro Tools, you just want to use like FL or like Ableton, then just intern somewhere and like get the experience that way.
Yeah.
because that way it will be better for you.
Well, I went to Berkeley. I went to do their Pro Tools program, and I did it online, so I had a completely different experience than you.
Yeah, I was half online, half in person.
Yeah. So mine, I never touched the console.
Yeah.
I used Pro Tools here in my house. Like it wasn't that in a studio like situation. I was in my room,
And
So
that's upsetting.
it,
They should give you guys some type of permission to go back on campus.
well, I wasn't even like going to campus. They had the online program. I ended up going because we were locked up anyway. We were in the house, so I was like, I might as well learn how to mix because I need to, especially for my beats. So I did that. They didn't teach much. Like they taught us how to use Pro Tools, the ins and outs of Pro Tools. We learned how to use the video stuff for Pro Tools, where you can use QuickTime and stuff to mix in the audio. Um, and we just learned basic mixing, leveling. We learned what compression was and using it. But we had projects, right? So the projects of us mixing that they had in their program. So I did them, but they never really taught us what to do. They would just like mix it, and they gave us videos of people mixing it, and the teacher mixed it, right? In like our lecture sessions, which was just a video once a week. So we would submit it, and then he would give us chances to fix it and give us feedback on it. But the issue was that he would give you feedback, and you'd be like, okay, so how do I do that? And that was the challenge, was figuring out how to mix that with his feedback.
I mean, that definitely is a challenge. I think especially, everybody has their own style of mixing, and it's more about how you want to do things rather than how things get done in that sense, right? Where it's like, because I get advice all the time from other engineers, and it's important to listen to them and take what they have to say, but it's also important to remember to take things with a grain of salt.
Of course.
Because they're not right. There's no proper way to mix. Yeah. That's the truth.
And that was one thing that I didn't know, Like I was just learning it. I was like, okay, he's saying to do this, And they were Grammy winning engineers, which is crazy.
Well, that's nice that you have some credited teachers.
Yeah.
Our teachers weren't credited.
Yeah, like one of them worked with Rihanna and
that's nice.
A bunch of other people. So my point is that you had more of a on hands learning, where you were in that studio setting and you touched the consoles and you were able to, were you recording people?
Yeah, we had studio musicians come in and we would record them, which was cool. Yeah. But it's also, again, about what teacher you had.
Of course.
Because I had a good teacher who had friends who were professional musicians and stuff. So he would bring them in. If you had a bad teacher, you didn't get that same experience. Instead, you got maybe like the dude would put a phone playing music in the booth, and then like just getting signal on the console and then playing with things that way just to get used to using it, but not used to like actually using it in a real world setting. Yeah. So it's really relying on your teacher. So that's why it's like such an iffy, like I've heard SAE in Florida is really bad, but SAE in New York has our career advisor just like is always on top of shit. So like you're good for life.
And that's
like,
another thing. You guys had advisors that after you got finished with the program, you were able to get an internship, right?
Yeah, like I mean, I had an internship before I was even done with the program.
Yeah, like, Berkeley, they don't have that for the online program, so I was kind of like stuck. I got my certification and everything, I passed everything, but then I was like, okay, I know how to mix, but this is the basics of mixing. I want to learn more, and right now finding that internship has been difficult. And I finished in January.
Well, I'd say then probably just like get more hands-on experience on like consoles and just like, you know what I mean? Or like not even hands-on, but like just watch videos on them and just learn how to use them that way. And then like putting in your resume, like a skills area, and then just saying like all your skills and what consoles that will definitely help when applying to studios. Cause I have like, nowadays I just put analog/digital consoles because like it's very at this point I'm very neutral to any console, but if like the SSL or the Neve, you know what I mean, or like an API, you just throw those in the specific console trim level, and you know what I mean, like the 32X or whatever.
Yeah. So So what you would say is go to the school. Yeah.
Let's say just get
Just
an
to-
education anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're going to school or
whether it's an apprenticeship or anything, just learn somehow.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's good advice.
Just learn.
Yeah, just learn.
That's not really great advice, but that's the best way I could tell you, because everyone's different, and audio is so subjective to the listener and the person, you know. So
of course. So basically, just figure out a way to learn how to do what you want to do. That's really it.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now you're working at a studio, the Mansion Studios, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy working at the studio, or is there a different type of way that you can apply your knowledge that you would want to?
I really enjoy my coworkers, and I think the other people at the studio are great. I definitely think that because of the genre that I mean, it's not even true, but like because of the genre that people kind of consider them specialized in, you know, they definitely have like a lot of kind of, you know, unprofessional people coming in a lot of the time, and dealing with that's very difficult when you're kind of used. Like I kind of came in through, you know, like way back when working at guitar school and then into High 97. Like I always got spoiled kind of in that way with like, I guess probably like more professional individuals.
Yeah.
Because there definitely is also professionals who are very unprofessionally, you know, like put themselves out there. So it very is like much up to like, I guess what you're willing to deal with as an engineer. And I know I'm definitely not good with dealing with things. Because I get like, you know what I mean? We get underpaid and stuff. So it's like, I don't care.
You're not paying me enough to do this.
Well, I'm not a babysitter, you know, like if I get it, sometimes I have to wear that hat or whatever, but as an engineer, my job is to mix your music, not to make sure that you're going to not die in the studio or something. You know, it's a little ridiculous for me.
You're also working in live sound, you were saying?
Yeah, I work at the New York City Parks Department, yeah.
Okay. You have a lot of knowledge with setting up concerts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've set up lots of things, concerts, you know, giant meetings and stuff like that as well, and movies and stuff like that.
Okay, wait, movies?
Like movie screens and shit, like home, kind of like a giant theater,
like a home theater type of thing,
an outdoor theater. But yeah.
Oh, so like if they were to have movies in the park.
Literally, yeah. That's about, especially this month in June. That's about all we do. And we do that until like October, and then like they said to me when I was first getting started that if there is like a movie or something that's shot in our area, right? I work for Brooklyn, so I'm in like Prospect Park and stuff. So there is like a movie being shot or something, like we're kind of like the guys who have to like work with them if there's like movies and stuff, because it's under, I think, not the music union, but under the movie industry, like the video union or whatever. I just know it's unionized. I'm not sure by who. It's some union.
I don't know anything about that.
Neither do I really. I just pay a fee, like, you know, like give my dues and get healthcare.
So, as an engineer, right? You pride yourself on knowing a lot about technology, and I know you specifically love analog gear.
Yeah.
Like you walk into this guy's house, he has a station where he's building an 1176 compressor and a rack where he's going to put a bunch of analog shit.
Plans for it, yeah.
So for people who don't know a lot about analog gear, could you explain the basics and then we could just go from there?
Yeah. Analog gear is more or less just external effects that either your recording console or interface, whatever you're recording into, just doesn't have on it. Because I know like consoles and stuff might have reverbs, especially like the really low end. You'd be surprised what the hell they put on those like $300 like live sound, like whatever, like consoles. They put some crazy stuff on them for no reason. It all sounds pretty bad, but but you know, like nonetheless, it's sometimes consoles will have effects built in or normalized, but for the most part, analog gear is going to be external gear that is just effects. just different things that affect the sound waves differently.
Yeah. So would you say that the analog gear, in affecting it, it kind of codes differently than if you were going into straight through how we are right now?
Well, 100%, because when you're recording, right, our vocals and what's being picked up by the mic is in DC, I believe, or AC. I think it's DC.
And what
it
does
might
that
be
mean?
AC. Well, that's just like electricity, right? Like your electricity currents. You have AC and you have DC, right? So when a microphone and your vocal is being picked up, I'm pretty sure is DC. Yeah, I think. And then so it's literally like an electricity just going through, and that electricity carries the information. So anything that is being processed, like once when you put in an MCU into like, which is like an MCU is like the computer or the brains inside all these pieces of hardware. Once when you like throw that signal through the MCU and then process it, it gets changed. You know?
So for the people who don't know, when you talk into a microphone, the audio that we're speaking right now, like what we are saying, is being translated from the microphone to the computer as zeros and ones. It's literally code.
Yeah.
So the code is then translated within the computer or the software that you're using, and it's spit out to us as audio because it's kind of like it's reading it back.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Actually, I feel like if you know how to do electrical engineering, then audio engineering is literally like gonna be like, you're gonna be like Jesus. You can walk on water, like
it'll come easy.
Yeah, like you just go right through it, like Moses.
5 seconds.
Just put your staff down on the ground, and the water comes up. You know what I mean? Like you'll just be good because like it's very similar to like if you know how, especially if you're thinking about things very technically, like it's all very simple.
Yeah,
simple gear.
So, starting out, do you feel that people should start off with analog gear or just go straight into digital?
I think you should start off with analog gear and get used to the companies of the analog gear, like what's known, because there definitely is famous, like I said, like the SSL and the Neve and the API and Audient. Like these are consoles that are very industry standard and like everyone kind of knows, and they have plug-in versions of that. But I don't believe that if you start in the digital world, you're gonna know, because there's so many plugins, right? When you see an SSL channel, that actually looks bad to you versus like the C4
That's
or something.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's true, because I started off digital. I didn't know anything about analog gear, and the SSL, it just looks intimidating at first.
100%, yeah.
It's the SSL EQ, for example. It's just a bunch of knobs.
Yeah,
and you don't know what the hell that does. You just look at it, you're like, oh shit, the fuck is that? And then you just go to a regular EQ and you're like, let me just pull this down instead of messing with the knob digitally, whether it's digital or actually analog. So it's very intimidating, is not knowing, like going into it, just seeing it. You just want to stick to what you know, when in reality it's the same thing.
Yeah, if it's actually easier a lot of the time. I think it's very simple because when you're dealing, especially with older consoles, it's very simple because there's just an EQ, your preamp, and maybe a dynamic section and like your faders.
Are there any like funny stories or anything crazy that's ever happened to you in the studio?
Yeah, I mean every day something new. I mean isn't that how the studio is? It definitely is a little crazy working at a studio sometimes. I guess like a cool story was I had this one client comes in all the time, and he's like a really cool dude, and I don't know, he just brought over one, like he never has a dog with him ever or whatever, and like the one day he just like brought in his friend brought in like 12 dogs or whatever.
12 dogs into a studio session.
It was a small dog too, and they like to bark and stuff, so
they think they're vicious, but they're really not.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one.
So he brings 12 little dogs into a studio session.
He did that one time. After that, I haven't seen him bring another dog yet. It was definitely difficult to work around sometimes, because you got something like all these dogs running around the studio, and now you got to clean up after them too. Like,
what if they took a shit?
Not my responsibility.
Imagine they took a shit on the console.
We don't have console. We have the Avid S1, so I don't think the dog's gonna get on the Avid.
Well,
We have just the dock controller. We don't have the full console. Yeah,
okay.
because shit's expensive. You know, the
Yeah.
Avid S6 is close to like 300 grand.
Yeah,
Buy
I
a
mean,
house.
Everything music related is expensive.
For no reason too.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
mean, it's probably the materials, like the cost of it, of just building it.
well, what it is I know because I had a tour of the Telefunken studio,
Mhm.
and I know that like especially when you're in that price range for microphones and stuff, everything's kind of like being built by hand, and like everybody's like there's no factory like working. It's like more like mass producing, and like there's just like a group of like 10 people that's like all work. It's like crazy.
To build microphones.
Yeah, Telefunken had like a really crazy setup.
So it's like 10 people just sitting in one room
Well,
like this.
there's
Well,
like
not one room, but you know what I mean. Like just
yeah,
with the what's it called? The soldering
irons.
The soldering
Yeah.
irons, just putting metal together.
Well, it's not like that. It's more like because I guess like when thinking about microphones, you think it's just like super electrical work and nothing
Yeah.
like that. But they actually do a lot of testing more for parts, and like and they test a lot of parts.
Mm.
So they'll buy a lot of tubes for their microphones, and they so they test all their tubes. They like have this big machine. They test. I think it was like they either put like a white noise through it or something,
Yeah.
and they compare it and like look at all of them and check to make sure all the tubes are right. And it's like this one guy doing all that, and then he installs the tubes into the circuit board, and then they pass it off to like this other person, and like and there's like a group of like 3 of them doing that stuff in the warehouse, and they have a guy. They have a studio, and they have a guy who like is testing out equipment before it gets used, and all that, and like it's really cool. Like they're really like progressive in that sense of like.
So they really like take their time and make sure that the microphone is working correctly and it's up to par with their standards.
Yeah, especially I mean when you buy an 11 grand microphone, I think you'd expect it to be
11 grand.
Well, that's some of them. Of course, there's other ones made by them that are like a little lower level.
Yeah,
but it is, very expensive.
Oh my god, 11 grand for a microphone is crazy. Imagine spending 11 grand on a microphone.
I can.
Yeah, I can.
I think I can, but I think I'd do nothing with that mic. I think it would just kind of sit there.
Sit in a box and not touch it, because if it gets fucked up, I'm going to be so mad.
I guess like movie productions would kind of be the only time to use a mic like that.
Yeah.
Most microphones are like, you want them to kind of, especially nowadays, I feel like you kind of want your microphone to be a little bit rough.
In what sense?
Like, right? Like the most expensive mics that people kind of use in like hip hop is like the U87s or the TLMs and stuff. And like those are pretty expensive. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, they are expensive.
Yeah. And they're very good for vocals and stuff. But there definitely is higher quality mics that are very expensive. But a lot of those mics their purpose is for like room mics and stuff like that. So they normally don't get used. So in like a regular vocal session.
Yeah. So in the sense of roughness, do you mean distortion or do you mean?
Well, I mean like a mic that can kind of like handle its own, if you get what I mean. Like I'm like, right, this mic, I could like probably like toss this mic downstairs. I'm not saying I will, but it'll probably survive. And if anything, maybe only like a wire or two, maybe some dings and dents. But we're using microphones that relatively can be like if someone punches it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all going to freak out, obviously, and stuff, and be like, oh no, but because that has happened.
Punch the mic?
Yeah.
For what explain. Elaborate.
I don't think I need to. It's just the type of clientele sometimes.
They just get angry at the microphone.
Get angry at themselves, I think.
And then they punch a microphone.
Yeah. Also, they're
That shit is crazy.
like they're a lot, stuff like that. They're just always reckless and stuff, and you have to just kind of deal with that. And but I think that might be part of the reason why we use such durable microphones. The U87, not saying it's super durable, because that one wouldn't be able to survive a flight, of stairs. But getting knocked down or something every once in a blue moon, it can survive. Versus like certain Rode mics or like very high end warm audio mics, you're running the risk that like if you knock it down, the whole mic just will shatter. You know what I mean? Like it's like almost glass.
So speaking of mics, and we were talking about the studio, this just came to my head. Do you think that studios are necessary? Like, everything is evolving. We all have technology. We're recording right here, Do you think that recording in a studio is necessary when you can record at your house or something like that?
I think it's more relying on like how serious you are about your own art and like how serious you are about that specific song, right? Because if you want to record like certain songs at your house or whatever, because you're gonna just throw them on Spotify or SoundCloud, like sure. But like if you're like, I want this to be like my official album, like you should have that professionally mixed so that when you do submit it to someone one day, like a manager, A&R, or someone just to try to get like a gig, you need to have that like that sound of like, well, not necessarily, but it's good to have that sound of like clarity,
So what if the recording? Okay, let me be a little bit more specific. Let's say they're going to send it out to an engineer, right? But they're recording in their house. Do you think that that's equal to recording in a studio?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
About your engineer mainly, but I think your microphones at home, like your typical mics, like that people use when home studio recording, I think need more, like they're not super high quality, so they're going to be very transparent, I feel. Like there's not going to be very much presence in the vocals.
What do you mean by that, transparent? Other than the presence of the vocals, do you mean like of the surrounding audio?
Well, no, it's just like the vocals won't have like that definition. You know what I mean? Like where they won't sound like they're hitting. But again, that also varies on like what engineer you have as well, and what microphone that person's using. Because I do know this awful mic that everyone seems to love, who uses home studios, called the NT1A.
I've never heard of that before.
Awful mic, because it has a lot of ground noise for whatever reason, and so you just hear it like all the time.
So for people that are starting off to record in their houses, what mic do you suggest?
I would suggest like the SM7B or MXL 990 even. Like that's what I was using for a while. They sound pretty good. Any condenser mic that's like $100, honestly, just
so like the Rode or the Audio Technicas.
Yeah, I don't see a problem in any of them as long as there just isn't any ground noise. That's what it comes down to.
Can you define ground noise for
ground noise? Is like that not white noise, but it sounds like that, like humming. Static. Yeah, that static humming. Almost like a mixture of white and pink noise in one, in a way. It's like, just sounds ugly, you know? And like trying to remove that from recordings is very difficult, and feedback, all those types of things is like, so that's why it also comes like, because your engineer can only do so much. Getting those takes that are actually good and don't have anything going wrong in the setting is way more important, I think. So you can, if you have a house that's like quiet and stuff, you can, but it's more preferred for most people who take their stuff a little seriously, at least, to go to a studio.
Of course. So now let's talk about the people that are taking it serious but are recording in their own homes, and they're using mixing templates and they're not touching it. They just get the template, load it up, record, release. Just wrong. It's just wrong, right?
That's just, you just don't do that.
Yeah.
Like for an in-studio mix, if you're looking for something just to release on SoundCloud, or I get it, because it's like, it's kind of like an in-studio mix, honestly. Like, not, I try to give my in-studio mixes a little more than that, but, some people I'm sure do that, and whatever. But like a full mix song, like that's not going to be industry standard.
Of course not.
You know what I mean?
And most artists don't understand that you need that industry standard sound if you want to make something of it, and they don't put the thought into mixing and mastering it. And most, of course, how many artists go to your studio to fully mix and master a song?
Maybe I think we get maybe 3 of those a month.
3 a month?
Yeah, we get 3 of those a month.
Whereas you probably get maybe 50, 100 a month of clients coming in just to record.
Yeah, probably around that.
And they probably just release it off rip like that.
I would assume so. I've never, but there is certain clients, what I've seen, which is an interesting way of doing things, is they, instead of doing, so they do in-studio mixes, and then they come back they'll have like another engineer different, because they'll be like the studio client, not like a specific person's client, and then they'll just ask all the engineers, instead of to record a new song, to waste their 3 hours mixing their other song. And it's like, it's cheaper at that rate to just buy a full mix.
Yeah.
But you do get a better sense of like, because the artist is there with you the whole time, so you know exactly what they want. And if anything, like, you know, but your ears get fatigued,
of course,
you know, and they don't understand that as well.
Yeah.
So there is also like a lot of downfalls in that. But I definitely see that being a, you know, where music should be going in that sense, where it's like, just record and then give me like 12 days of mixing.
Yeah,
you know, like,
and it should be that way.
Yeah,
like if you're an artist that's really wanting to take your stuff seriously, and you want that industry standard sound, you need to get your stuff mixed and mastered by engineers.
I would say so. Yeah,
that's really the only way to do it, though. Because if you just do it like that, then it's not going to sound how it should sound. You know,
clear.
Yeah, clear, crisp,
yeah.
defined, and kind to the ear.
Kind to the ears, a word. Or a sentence, a saying. No.
I don't know. It just came out.
A word. Yeah. No, but that's true though. Yeah, you definitely need things to be mixed by engineers.
Of course.
Otherwise, like, it just won't be. Of course, you could. I've heard people who can mix things themselves, and that's great. If you can mix yourself and you have a good understanding, then consider yourself an engineer, and stop, like, you know, going to a studio, like, because your engineer's gonna get mad at you.
Yeah, just learn, learn how to do it better, and then from there you'll get there, you know, eventually. Yeah. But if you're not mixing your stuff yourself and you're just releasing it off rip and you're trying to take it serious, definitely invest in it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you are what you get out of it, you know,
of course.
I mean? So if you put your all into it, you're gonna get a lot back. If you put nothing into it, you're gonna get nothing back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So how long would you say you should spend on a mix? Because you and I both know, as engineers, when you're mixing your songs, you get ear fatigue. You always find something wrong, even when you're like, okay, I'm done. Let me go listen to it in the car. Let me listen to it on my phone. Oh, damn, I should boost this. I should cut this. I need to fix this. How long, when do you say, like, cut off? Like, I'm done mixing this. I'm not going to touch it again.
Of course, that's also reliant on the client, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, if you're doing an in-studio mix, I'm only talking, like, I'm mixing the whole time that you're in the booth, and then when you're out, I'll take another 5 to 10 minutes to, like, touch it up and put on plugins that would have caused latency and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, that's it. Like, you know, then it's like, okay, you're good. Like, I'm not going to spend anything more than 10, because you're going to get upset with me, and you know, we're both going to, like, it's going to waste time, you know. And honestly, after 10 minutes, any small tweaks you're doing, they're not hearing, and it's kind of just an engineer thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, just bounce it out. Just get your master at 11 dB, or I'm sorry, 11 LUFS, negative 11, or negative 9, like in that area, and then just send.
And that's for when you're in a session where people are recording. So for a full mix, how long would you spend?
Yeah.
Depending, let's say the client gives you leeway, you know, like, it's on your time. Like, I'll get it back when I get it back, you know?
Well, an entire song to fully, like, if it's like a big production song, should take,
let's say 2-track.
A 2-track. I mean, dude, then, like, if it's a 2-track, give it, like, you can't waste too much time, because no matter what happens with the beat, you can't change it. So, like, as much as you think you can mess around with it, you can't change it. So that's just, like, I don't know, man. I won't waste anything more than 30 minutes, honestly, on a mix like that.
So you have like your regular vocals, ad libs, doubles, all on that 2-track, and you'll take 30 minutes.
Yeah, like, I mean, 30 minutes would be like I'm talking like 30 minutes, but divided up in 3 days, right? So we have like let's say he recorded it in a 10-minute mix that I did for the in-studio session. Then the next day, I'm properly, like, leveling everything out and getting everything to sound, like, flat. Then the day after that, I'm going to just add some spice to it, you know, get it mastered and stuff, and send it out, and that'll be valid.
So let's say you didn't record it, because obviously you're going to set it up for yourself to be like, okay, cool, I could just go off of this because I already know what I did. You didn't record it, people send you the stems.
Just, you know, then, like, right, so that's better. If you're sending me stems and, like, you're giving me, like, a full beat, that's better. And you're going to give me that. I could give you, you know, that's what I'm saying, like, 5-day turnaround, probably 4 days.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give me stems, I'm gonna have 3 days of like first day. I'm gonna import everything in, get my start from especially for full mix. I'll start from scratch, and I'll get everything organized and grouped and stuff and that stuff. Then the next day I come back and I kind of give it like an in studio mix kind of idea and get everything leveled. And then the third day do the finishing touches on that, and then after that, like I'll just take some more time out to listen back to it before I might send it off to the client, especially if I'm going to have like every single stem. I'm going to want more time to make sure that everything was also recorded properly, especially if I didn't do it, you know, because if it was my own production, I would take those 2 days instead of just listening to it and touching it up more. Those 2 days would have been spent on pre-production and recording, which most people also don't do any of that. So
it's true. So that's your mixing stage. And for the people who don't know what stems are the audio files. So every single audio file that is in that project or in that session, that's what would be sent to the engineer if they're going to mix it. That's what a stem is. Or the stems are. A stem is, it would just be one. But
right. A stem.
Yeah, one stem.
One stem, you just have like a little vocal.
When you're in a session as an engineer, so that the artist can like really grasp this, what should the engineer do in general?
Your engineer is only there to make things clear and add effects. Anything else is like even like when we're comping, like you know what comping is, right? Like, so for
the
people who don't know, comping is when like if someone's like off beat or something and you have to like move around their vocals, or they want something from a different take and you're now mixing 2 takes, like that's all comp. That's called vocal comp. And so that's not like, it is a part of engineering for sure, but in an in-studio session, I don't think that's really like what, I guess it does make sense because you are cutting things and putting them together, but I think that people over exaggerate on comping, where it's like now that makes it like almost like that's all my job is, and like becomes an issue because that's not what we're really there to do. And if they have an issue with the way everything sounds like, and they have a problem with the way that their take is, they're gonna take it out on you, and it's like everything's your fault.
It is. It's not even the engineer's fault, because if you're recording, right? Let's say you're recording, what comes out of the microphone is you, and then all the engineer has is what you did, and they base their work off of that. So if the recording is bad or you sound bad in the recording, it's not the engineer's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, 100%. And like that's why I always try to like I always do the same thing. I've realized if you just kind of like because you gotta read out your client before they even get in the booth to be able to like communicate with them well. And I always know that that's a big thing. That's a big challenge for me, is communicating with these guys. A lot of these drill rappers also, because like I'm not speaking the same way as them. You know what I mean? Like on my regular day, you know, when I'm at work, you have to kind of like becomes like annoying because you have to kind of like be like almost like a fake personality just to like that they like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like start talking like all like Atlanta or something. You know what I mean? But you get what I mean?
Like code switching.
Yeah, like you have to know different slang and stuff and be able to like, because or else like they literally won't understand you, which is like weird.
I mean,
like you don't know regular English, but no, like they just like slang, so like that's what they know, and they've interpreted so much nowadays, I guess, that that's the only way to communicate with a lot of them. So it becomes an issue sometimes, but that's why like every time that a client comes in, I always kind of do the same thing, like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Kevin, your engineer. Like, you know, what are we working on today? And like how they respond to that is how I'm gonna know what the tone is for the rest of, because that's a very simple thing. And dude, I've had people say shit like, nah, bro, like you right off the bat, like, so, what? Like that's not even an answer to what I just said. Like that's not how that works.
Nah.
Yeah, just
we're not doing nothing today.
We're sitting here. I'm like, okay. Get paid.
All right, I'll just be at the computer if you need me.
I mean, that's rarity though. That's like for people who have like too much like time on their hands, like the label guys, when they just like don't have, you know, they're at the studio 24/7. Like that's like rare. Like I haven't seen a label person like that since Hot 97, because at Mansion we don't really have too much of that. Where they're more focused on like developing the artist than dealing with uh industry artists themselves, because they've already dealt with that. Like a lot of us have, and they don't want to deal with it anymore. I honestly like some of the really late night guys we have, because like those guys are always like, I feel like a lot of the realest dudes that you meet are like in the hip hop industry and stuff that like are the best to work with. Like, you know, they're always the best people. Like they're always like what you would be like a good client, because like nobody wants to work with bad people, and that's why those people got successful, is because they're not bad people and people enjoy working with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you know, the industry is very small, so you could kill your name off real quick by saying the wrong things and doing the wrong things, you know. So it's all, you know, you have to be very on your toes with that type of stuff socially, you know.
Of course. I mean, everything is social now. Like you have to watch what you say, watch how you act, and just be mindful of what people consider to be the right thing instead of what you believe is the right thing. Even though some people may think certain things are the correct thing, but they're not, you know?
Yeah.
So you were talking about studio etiquette.
Yeah.
You want to get into it?
I mean, there's just basic shit.
It's you would think that it's basic shit. You would think that people would assume that studio etiquette is a basic thing, but a lot of people don't think about it.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's true, because a lot of clients don't see it the way that we see it, because they're not in the studio all day,
and they don't know what that technology is.
Well, yeah.
Whether it's technology or whether it's just like they don't think about, oh shit, how is that going to affect this place of business or this person that's going to be there, you know?
Oh yeah, it's they don't care about that. They don't,
No.
I mean, right, when you're buying a car, right, or well, it's someone that you go to once in a while, right? Like you might go to him once a week, like maybe like a guy, like you go to a food place, right, every week or whatever, right? And like you expect those guys to kind of treat you nicely or whatever, and like you will, like we will, if you're there that often, we will. But a lot of people coming in like once a month and then being like, yeah, I'm the studio's favorite client. No, you're not.
So when you're sitting at the desk, right? And somebody puts a bottle of water right next to you.
I mean, it's wrong, but it happens so often at this point, I don't even think it goes like through my head anymore.
What do you think? What do you think is gonna happen with that bottle of water when it falls?
Well, yeah, when it falls. But if you have in my opinion, if you have as long as it has a cap on it and the cap is closed all the way, I don't care what happens. Like I don't care if you put it anywhere, as long as there's a cap. If you have a glass like this and you put it right next to my console, I'm gonna be like, no. Like that needs to go. What are your like top 5 rules in the studio for you personally? For me, I'm really big on no prejudiceness and like no racism, no like just basic shit. Like no like can't be like what's the person who's like scared of like homosexuals? The
homophobic.
Yeah, you can't be homophobic, like stuff like that. You know, studio is a very open area where everybody's going to be a creative individual, even the people who work there. Yeah. So you have to be able to respect everybody and not step on anybody's toes. And the best way to do that is by not hating on anybody.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it makes sense.
Like it's very simple formula, but a lot of people, especially clients coming in, don't see that formula. There's a lot of them that do, and there's a lot of them that don't.
Yeah.
The ones that do, we work with them better. You know, we give them better mixes because we're able to communicate better. The ones that try to hate because they think that's like the image and the ego of a rapper, that definitely affects their mixes in the studio. I will say that, because then you stop wanting to do the extra mile for them. And when you stop wanting to do it, you're not going to do it. You know, you always try to, you know, nonetheless, you give them a good mix, but going the extra mile is in like, maybe it might have sounded cool in that one part to have a more reverb or delay than the rest of the song, you know, like that type of extra mile. Like you won't go there for that. Like, you know, you're just like, no, like, you know, like, we don't got time, bro.
So we don't have time. You know, your session's ending in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, you gotta go.
So what else would you say would be your rules in the studio other than those 2 things?
I mean, knowing if you're in the studio, you should definitely know how to use the studio. Like like, right, a studio is a tool, not a place to hang out. Even though people use it like that, which is fine because that's the way that we make our money. Like by the guys who just hang out. But there is the people who use it as a tool, which is the way it should be used. Which is you should be coming in with stuff already in mind, like at least in mind already, and then know how to use a microphone. Like you speak into it, not over here, not over here.
Not next to it, not with your mouth like this. You know? Like try to talk into the microphone. About
like 2 inches away, 3 inches away.
I usually say put your hand out like this in front of the pop. Your pinky's in front of the pop filter, right?
Yeah, like,
and then your thumb is where your mouth is.
That's pretty good, right? Like needing to train these guys is definitely sometimes a part of it, which is okay because that's always a thing. Like even back in the day when you're recording like instruments more like drums and stuff, you have you have to tell the drummers like, hey, go a little lighter on the cymbals and go a little harder on the snare and the kick, because in recording you're gonna hear the cymbals a lot more than you're gonna hear the other stuff. But
of course,
I think any vocal take you give me, I'm gonna be able to work around kind of if it's in a booth. So even if it's like you're over here, I'm just gonna turn it up. Do you know what I mean? It might not sound right, but I'll just turn it up, because unless you hear it, then like unless you as an artist is gonna hear it, then I'm not, because like it's an in studio mix, and in studio, like this is all in studio stuff, and like if you don't know how to use stuff yourself, that's kind of on you. Not like I will tell you, like, can you go, like if I hear you doing it a lot, like I'll be like, hey, can you go a little closer to the mic? But if it's like one word, I'm not gonna make him redo his entire take over that. I'll just kind of like maybe go and comp in another take, a
different take where you said it right.
Yeah, exactly. But at the very worst, if I have no other take, just turn it up.
Okay.
Because that's all you need to do, I guess. It'll have weird reverb on it though. Very weird sounding.
Yeah. So do you ever do a lot of work with like weird take, like where people didn't record correctly?
It's about every time, I think.
Yeah.
Because in studio, and especially in these sessions that are 3 hours, you're gonna, like, these 3 hour sessions is like standard at this point. Like people don't know how to use stuff. You don't have the time to train them. You honestly don't. You have, by the time you even load up the song, like there's the first song, it's been already like 20 minutes, half the time, because they're also talking and bullshitting, and then you get the levels, it's another 10. Like, shit takes up time. So sometimes you have to like, I think it comes down to like the artist. What I mean? I'm not going to train you if you don't, like, I'll give you pointers, but I'm not going to train you if you don't know how to use a microphone. A microphone's pretty, like, if you don't know how to use a microphone, I feel like you're outdated, because nowadays, like, we talk on the cell, like, you know how a microphone works. Like, I don't get, like, there's so much stuff that we use that uses audio every day. How you not know how to properly use a mic at this point?
So,
like,
would you blame an engineer for a bad recording or just the artist?
It could go both ways, of course. It's about, like, right? Like, if an engineer puts a high pass filter all the way up, like, for no reason on like a vocal to that's why? Like, give me the whole thing. Like, I don't need any of that. Like,
so what if it was like a raw recording? Would you blame the engineer if all of it was just over here instead of it being right into the mic?
It was just like all of it. I mean,
all of it.
It doesn't.
Or muffled in a sense.
I wouldn't say it was. I would say it's the engineer's fault, sure, but it's also the artist's fault as well. I think it goes on both parts at that point, because especially if it's like something that's like really high production, like you're looking to make sure that stuff's right. And so if that's little stuff isn't right, then that's when it becomes, effective. But like if it's like small takes, and it happens every once in a while, there's tons of ways to work around that stuff, But like if it's like the whole recordings, like over here, I mean, that's definitely is your engineer's fault.
Because there's a lot of studios that I've heard stems from where the raw recording is just horrible, like really bad, muffled, and just as if they put a noise gate, and not even a noise gate. Like the X noise plugin, where it's supposed to take away the background noise and that humming noise.
What, the RX?
Yeah, the RX one, something like that. Like they did that, and you know how it gives you that underwater effect, as if they put that on the raw recording. and it just like
So
completely
it's
messes
just
it up.
unbalanced.
Completely unbalanced.
I mean that happens. I mean that's why an in studio mix is important as well. The
Mhm.
the 10 minutes that you sit down to do it is important.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't come out great, like it's important because then whenever if it does get sent out elsewhere, you have a good platform to go off of.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But a lot of people aren't getting it full mix, so like dealing with if someone does send you something like that, that's I don't know what to tell you. Like just turn
Yeah.
it up. I'd honestly take out something like that. I would probably take like pull out the RX reverb,
Mhm.
the RX reverb eliminator thing, and just like try to get all the room ambience away and focus in on the source. But like you'd probably need soothe too as well. Um, I honestly don't know. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? At
I'm
that
just
point, you're
I'm just
just
saying
so
because there's a lot of people that think that it's even okay to have their stuff like that, and they don't necessarily hear it because they're not trained to hear it. But then you put it in front of somebody who's trained to hear stuff like that, and they're like, it doesn't sound good, and but the artist is okay with it.
well. I think then just give it to them. I don't care if because like I don't as an engineer. Of course, there is the pride of uh my name's going on this too.
Yeah, that's the issue because if somebody's giving it to me to do a full mix and it sounds like shit.
But at the end of the day, we're working. That's like right when a contractor does work and then they post like a picture of someone's house or whatever and
Mhm.
stuff like that. That's like our way of saying like these are our credits.
Yeah.
Half of those other credits that other people requested aren't going on your list. Like, so yes, you might have an extension, a whole extended list of like everybody you've worked
Yeah.
with, but the major ones are what you talk about. You know what I
So
mean?
like
So
even if that it's shitty, you don't even it doesn't
yeah,
matter. Just get it done, hand it out.
yeah. Because if they are serious about it or whatever, and they send it off elsewhere or whatever, it comes out good, and
Mhm.
they blow up off of that song, you still get that credit,
Yeah.
and like it might not have been a great mix to you, but at the end of the day, sometimes just like artists, we need to swallow our own pride and just do the job.
Yeah.
Like engineering isn't always about making it sound perfect.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's about making it just sound decent.
Yeah. So, do you have any advice that you would give artists, whether it's going to the studio or just working on their music in general?
Um, just like get more educated in it. Go more in
Mhm.
depth versus and get more technical about like being an artist and like all that stuff versus like just like living the life that you want. Like, because I feel like a lot of people are artists because of like the life they choose to live or what they want to live. But like, you know, a lot of other people living that same life who aren't artists. So like, they have
Yeah.
to realize that like get over that themselves in that way and like try to break out from that like just party
Mhm.
style. You know what I mean? Like I feel like every artist I meet is super egotistical and like super like party man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's like ready to go to mad like clubs and stuff.
So, would you say like try to think of doing music just for the music and not for the lifestyle that it could give you?
Yeah, because the lifestyle is cool. It comes with it, like but it's that's only a part of it. There's a whole other side of things that becomes like you don't get to live that cool lifestyle without like paying a big price,
Yeah.
and a lot of them don't understand that. That's why they don't get to have full-time jobs in music.
And that's some great advice because the last episode that we did for the podcast, me and my girlfriend Brina, we were stating that it's important to educate yourself as an artist because you need to learn a lot about what this industry is going to bring you, especially if you want to get in depth with it.
Yeah, and and it's good to know what I mean for your own sake as an
Yeah.
artist. Because a lot of these guys they come in, they expect us to work magic, and if they don't understand, I get it. Because they have no idea what our job is. They see us as
Mhm.
like a producer in a way. Like they
Yeah.
see us producers and like a lot of the say like all as one. Like they don't
Mhm.
understand all the different other technical jobs there is in audio. So you know like I think also that stressing about like what an engineer is meant to do and knowing what they're meant to do is important as well.
Yeah.
Is that people expect magic and magic doesn't happen.
Magic doesn't happen, it's created. Do you believe that engineers and producers, because I'm gonna mix this these two together.
Yeah.
Do you believe that they're respected as they should be in the industry?
I think it varies a lot, of course, but I think mainly like recording engineers and producers, like beat producers are the ones getting ripped off the most right now, because like industry standard, everybody wants mastering engineers. No one really cares right now. Everybody has their studios locked in, especially out here in New York.
Yeah.
So like nobody really wants to work at like, you know, like you could get a new studio or whatever, but like it's hard to come up in that. So they really look for like new mastering engineers, because there's not much of that.
Yeah.
And mastering is definitely interesting in its own world, but that's really just ultimate loudness, which is why like you listen to a song from the 80s versus listening to a song now, they definitely sound much clearer and louder.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, and producers definitely don't get as much credit on their beats as much. They do 50% of the work on the song basically, and get maybe 25.
Well, isn't it like 3 points? Like 15?
Is it 3 points?
It's 3 points.
I didn't know it's only 3 points.
Do you know the definition of points?
Yeah, I know the definition of points.
Can you give the definition of points?
Oh, well, points is just basically it's literally your percentage. It's literally like your percent. Like it's, instead of saying percent, you say point. Like so you have 3% is basically, that's really low.
Well, no, 3 points is like 15 to 25%.
Is it? I thought it was. Is it that? Does it work like that?
Yeah.
So is it like 1 point is like equivalent to 5 then?
I believe so.
Okay. So no one gets below 5% at minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting.
Yeah, but it sucks because you did half of the work, because without a beat, it would just be vocals. You know?
But then you'd have to get 10 points though. That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points, but
they don't want to give that away.
But they don't give it away, which is insane.
Well, because they have to give points to the mastering and mixing engineer and the recording engineer, if there is one.
Yeah. But it's just crazy to me how that works, because in reality, those points should be coming from the artist. You know what I'm saying?
The artists shouldn't be the ones who are getting all the money most of the time.
I know, because they don't. All they do is they sit there and they record.
They don't.
Or stand there.
Of course, there is the ones that like you could see it and why they make the money they make, but
that would make more sense, you know? Like if you're the artist who's standing up there making the beat with the producer, sitting there mixing the song with the engineer, then okay, I understand you getting those points too.
Yeah.
Because technically you're in the studio and you're providing knowledge toward it, you get that percentage, you know?
But most of the time I feel like engineers are carrying these sessions, and these artists are kind of just like, I don't even think they care. Like a lot of the time I don't think the song isn't. I feel like most of the work I've done at the studio doesn't even get released, because I feel like they just listen to it but with their boys, and then like that's it, you know, like never gets released, like they never post it or anything, like, and like it's fair, you know, I guess like that's what people want to do.
So do you think that artists, producers, and engineers need to be more working as a team? Like, do you think it's very separated right now?
Well, yeah, for sure. I think everyone's all like, I think slowly everyone's trying to put everybody together, but you do also have to realize that like the artist is like, being a producer is like being the rest of the band, right? And then being the artist is more like just being the vocalist for the band. So being the, like, you know, so a lot of these guys are very difficult to work with, and I think that a lot of producers and engineers kind of click faster and they kind of stay with each other more than I've seen like engineers and artists. I'm not saying like you have to suck your engineer's dick or anything like that, but like, you know, like you have to give your engineer the respect, because we really have been in a lot of places. It's like,
of course,
you know, you don't know. My head engineer, you know, he works for like a lot of people, like I don't even know, but he's worked with, like, his most recent credit was like Kendrick and what was his other one? He had a baddie. What was that girl's name? Sweetie.
Oh, Sweetie.
Yeah, he worked with Sweetie, and a few other people that like are in that realm, and it's like, you know, and that's cool too. And he's the one who worked with like pop and stuff as well, and it's cool, I guess, those types of. It's cool sitting in on those sessions and stuff, but a lot of the time it's like they're just kind of paying for a full mix or master.
Do you think that there's anything that artists could do, or engineers or producers could do, to fill that gap that there is, like from the separation?
Nah, I think artists need to let the engineer do their job, and I think the producers need to. I think when signing contracts with labels and stuff, producers need to have more of a demand for themselves.
Yeah.
But that's all comes down to the individual. If you don't feel like the system's right, then you have to change it. You know what I mean? Then, because like, like this industry is very subjective per person. So if you don't feel like something's right, then that means you're just not surrounded by the right people. Just move yourself to a different area, and you'll find it. You know?
Yeah.
That's why like I try to move around a lot. I really like live sound, because in live sound, you're not, as an engineer, directly dealing with these artists. You're just kind of putting up the speakers and setting them up, but you don't have to tell them how to do stuff. You know, they just do it. You know? So
do you have any advice for engineers in general as to getting into the career or while they're working in it?
Get used to not sleeping.
Yeah.
I think that's the toughest thing, because without sleep, like, your ears become fatigued quicker, and there's so much stuff. So like, get used to not sleeping, not eating, not, you know what I mean? Like,
not having any time. Yeah,
just never having time for anybody, and like missing holidays, because we work in entertainment. We're entertaining everybody else on Christmas and, you know, like New Year's, all that. That's our job, to make it fun for everybody else, not for us.
Do you think that will ever change? Like, do you think that there's going to be a moment in time where engineers will get sleep? Like, they'll be on a strict schedule, like it won't be on call so much?
I think it also like depends on who you are, but for the most part, no. I think that's kind of where we're at, and I think that's where it's gonna stay. It's kind of been like right, like you don't have a contract. Like, it's very rare, but you don't have a contract. You're just at your house all the time. You know what I mean? Like just like hanging out, ready to go. Like, hey man, like come do the. I got a hole in the wall now. Like, you know, like
oh, you a session now? Okay, I'll be there. Yeah,
like exactly. Like, you have to like kind of like wait to get picked up. Like, pick up the phone. Like, they try. You know, a lot of studios try. They give you a schedule. They're like, this is your day, your time. But if there's no sessions, you're not going in.
Yeah.
Like, you know, probably not going in. Like,
well, I mean, I liked what we talked about today. You know, it was pretty good. Yeah. So I really appreciate you being on the podcast. You know,
of course, thank you for having me.
Of course, and hopefully we could do this again. And for those of you who stayed and watched the entire podcast, we really appreciate you, and thank you. As always, this was the Thrive City podcast, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and to please give us some feedback as to what you thought on the episode. With that said, we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning into the Thrive City podcast. We really appreciate you for listening to what we have to say. It really means a lot. So please leave us with your feedback and thoughts about this episode. Before you leave, please give us a comment, like, and subscribe, because it really helps out the channel, especially if you're listening on YouTube. Also, don't forget the most important thing. Tell a friend. This right here, this is the Thrive City podcast.